Hey there, I'm Brandon, and this is the Dirt Church Devotional. There's an interesting story in the first part of Mark chapter 3. It tells about Jesus going into a synagogue on the Sabbath, and there was a guy there that had a shriveled up hand. And the Pharisees, the religious elite, they were watching to see if Jesus would heal him, do some work on the Sabbath. And this is actually, it's one of the only times that we see that Jesus was angry. He was angry at those individuals, at their hard hearts. He was angry at their stubbornness. You can read it for yourself. Anyway, back to this guy. It's interesting. Mark and Matthew, they both say there's a man with a shriveled hand, but Luke gives us a little more detail. Luke tells us that it was the man's right hand that was shriveled up. And you and I might be thinking to ourselves, right hand, left hand, big deal. What does it matter? Well, in our culture, 21st century America, it doesn't. Excuse me. But in their culture, in that day, that was significant because, see, the right hand represented your strength. The right hand represented your authority. And so here's this man in the synagogue that's lost his authority. He's lost his power. We don't know how his hand got shriveled. We don't know if he was born that way, or let's speculate, he became that way. He got that way. Maybe he was a military commander and he was injured and he lost the use of his hand. Maybe he was a contractor, a blue collar worker, and something happened and he lost the use of his hand. And now forevermore, he would be recognized as the guy with no authority, the guy with no strength. He would be considered cursed by God because of what had been taken away from him, whether it was from his own doing or something happening to him. And so, if you follow the story, Jesus has the man come up in front of everybody else. He doesn't call out the people that he's angry with. He didn't call out the Pharisees. He did ask him. He says, hey, is it okay to save life or kill life on the Sabbath? They wouldn't answer him. So he calls this man out, has him come up in front of everybody. A little bit embarrassing, right? But everybody knows him. Everybody's looking at him. Everybody's staring at his hand anyway. And Jesus simply looks at him and says, stretch out your hand. The man stretches out his hand, and it's fully restored. Now, what does that have to do with you or me? Think about this. We all have issues in our life that have stolen things from us. We all have issues in our life, things that we've done that have worked to steal the authority that we once had, to steal the strength, the power that we once had. And the enemy wants to highlight that. And he's trying to get you to focus. That's all they focused on, was he had a shriveled hand. But you know what Jesus focused on? I can heal the whole man. Jesus wanted to restore that authority that was lost. He wanted to restore that strength. He wanted to restore that man's standing in the community. Think about this. There is not an individual in Scripture, and there's not a hero of the faith in Scripture, outside of Jesus, of course, that didn't have a phenomenal failure. Whether you're looking at Abraham, or you're looking at Moses, or you're looking at David, or you go into the New Testament and you think about Peter and James and John, and you think about the Apostle Paul. They all had issues, and every single one of them, the Lord took and restored them and used them for his glory. In the same way, he wants to take and he wants to restore you. Don't get caught up identifying yourself with your failure. Don't get caught up identifying yourself and listening to the rest of the world, and listening to the enemy when they highlight your failure and your weakness and your loss. Look to the one who can restore, and then step up and use both hands for his glory. Chew on that. We'll talk to you later.